Okay, we're in a dirt floor cellar here, and they want to have a GFI put in here. So we're going to take this outlet off, and we're going to put a GFI in here. But obviously this box is too shallow for the thickness of a GFI. It will not fit in here. Oh, maybe it will. If it does, we'll put it in. If it doesn't, it doesn't. The reason we're doing this is because it's a dirt floor cellar. I'll just take this off here. We'll just clip our wires to make stripping and everything easier. We'll save our outlet. We're not throwing it away. It's a good outlet. Okay, that's going to be in the way. See these little tabbies that hold your wire in place? That is definitely going to be in the way. So what we're going to do is we'll take this out of here. We'll take our box off of this. So we'll take our box off the wall here. Our wire out of here. Okay, so you can see this there, the GFI won't fit in here, so we're going to use a nice, easy to use Romex connector. It just snaps in, it's plastic. So we'll come in through our top like this. And it just pushes in like this. We'll bring our wire back down. Push our wires in. I'm going to bring it down nice and far here. Okay, we'll screw it to the wood here. Okay, it's nice and tight. We'll get some more ground out of our jacket here. Okay, now we'll get our things out of our pocket here. We have to use our green screw here because you got to bond to the box and to both devices that we're putting in here. So we'll put our ground screw here. Okay, so we'll take our ground wire, push our wire back into our box here. Close it around our green screw, make sure it's around the screw the direction our screw turns here. Okay, so our black and white is going to go to our GFI. We're going to put it over on this side. And we're going to come over to an outlet on this side. So what we're going to do is we're going to get a ground wire out here. And we're going to jump from here to each device. So we're going to clip a little bit of wire off of here. I like to save single strand wire for things like this. And I'll strip all the insulation off of it so they know it's ground rather than neutral. Here's one. Okay, so we'll get our ground wires together here. Okay, I'll clip it so it's even with the shortest one. And I'll put our wire nut on here. Okay, so we'll push this back into our box here. We'll put one to our GFI and one to our regular outlet we're putting over here. So we're going to take the wires off of our receptacle because we're going to use it on the other side. And it's going to be protected by the GFI too. The reason we're putting this in the cellar is because it's a rental, and the cellar does get water in it, and there's a sub pump in it to get the water out, so it's a damp location. And I'll show you the floor when we're done. Okay, so we'll take and we'll get our black and whites ready to go on the GFI and one to go. I'll shorten these up a little bit. Now look at the back of our device. We have a strip gauge here. We have our line and our load. So I'll put our load wires on first because we're going to strip our wires here. Okay, I'll hold them up to our device here. Okay, I'll clip it even with the strip gauge. There's one. Even with our strip gauge here. And we'll put this where it says load. It says load over here, so we put white on the silver screw, which is the wider slot. The black will go on the brass screw, which is the narrower slot. So we'll put our wires on here. Okay, we got our load wires hooked up. We'll hook our line wires up next, so we'll strip them. Okay, we'll line it up with our strip gauge here. Just a tiny smidgen has to come off. And I'll line it up with this one, and I'll clip it even with this one. There we go. Okay, now we'll put our white line where it says white line. Make sure it's snug. And we'll get our ground wire under the green screw and under the pressure plate here, and make sure our copper is coming up to the top, which it is. Okay, and we'll get our black one over here on the brass colored terminal here. Okay, so I'll put our GFI into the box. Now we're going to make sure this ground wire stays down. And we'll push these wires into our box. Keeping our ground wire down away from everything here. And when I screw this in, I'm going to make sure our screws don't hit the wires. I'm going to push our ground wire down so it stays away from everything here. One. Okay, and we'll push our wires down so they're out of our way and they're not pushed against anything that could split it open. Yeah, I'm going to pull that black wire up, so I'm not pushing against that screw head there and shorting out, so I'm going to bring it up here. It's real close to it, so I'm going to make sure it's not going to push against it. So I'm going to bring the device up a little bit here. Put my fingers under there, pull it up this way. Now it's not going to touch anything that we don't want it to touch. Okay, now we'll hook our regular outlet back up. Now this outlet is going to be protected by this GFI. So I'll shorten that ground wire up a little bit. We'll put our ground wire around the green screw. Okay, we'll put our white wire around the silver colored screw. Put your wire around the screw the direction the screw turns. Make sure it's nice and tight. Our copper's under the screw head all the way around like that. Okay, now we'll flip our device around. We'll keep our ground wire down. We'll fold our wires so they go into the box, up and down, so they don't pinch anything. Or maybe put our black wire on the brass colored screw. Make sure it's nice and tight. We have a good solid connection. Now we'll put it into our box. Make sure our wires aren't going to get pinched anywhere. And these screws that hold it in aren't going to hit the wires. Because if it hits the wires, it can puncture them and then it'll cause a short. So we'll fold it so our ground wire is down away from everything. Our wires are out of the way of everything here. And I can see that the wires are in the way of the screw. Okay, now we'll finish it by putting our cover on here. And that is how to wire a GFI receptacle to protect the outlet next to it. I'll flip our breaker on and test it. The light is on. We're going to set it, test it, set it, and we are all set. Peace. Thanks for watching.